Hello, in this video I'd like to talk about setting up Lottie files using After Effects and HTML. Lottie is an animation format that can add interactive animations to our web page. So for our setup, we'll start where we left off with the last video. So we have an HTML with a linked style sheet. I'm going to call this thing Lottie like that. We'll get rid of all our content, but keep the body. And then in our CSS, we'll keep all these image format resets. And I will keep the H1 and get rid of everything else. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is install Lottie. You need to have After Effects installed, of course. And I've included a link on our Notion to Adobe Exchange. And over here in the Manage section, we can install the app. See, I have this one already installed. I can install this alternative. Okay, so here we are in After Effects. I'm going to make a new project. I'm going to make a new composition. We'll make this 540 by 540. I'll just call this A for now. I'm going to also reset my workspace. Window, workspace, standard. All right, and then we need something to animate. So I'm going to go over to the ellipse tool and double click. In my ellipse, so it's under contents, ellipse, we're looking for the ellipse, and we'll make it a lot smaller. And what I'm going to do is simply have it go from the center to the outside. So I can hit P to show the position property, click on the stopwatch, make a keyframe, and then I will scrub this over. I'll hit spacebar to see what we got. And what I will do, I'm going to make my composition a little longer. So maybe instead of 30 frames, we'll make it 100 frames. We'll copy and paste. There's other ways to do this, but for now, we'll just copy and paste the beginning keyframe at the end. Just see how the timing feels. Okay, so the animation at the moment's pretty mechanical, and that is because we have linear keyframes. You can tell by this diamond shade here. So what I'm going to do is select all my keyframes, right-click Keyframe Assistant, and change them to Easy Ease. That's a little better. Okay, then I'm going to take this, I'm going to use this as a base animation that we're going to repeat several times. I'm going to put this in here. So now we have a new composition with my original composition inside it. It's called A2. That's not super handy. So I'm just going to call this Edit. And then what I'm going to do is create an expression. Before I do that, let me just save my scene real quickly. Put it in our folder that we're working out of. We'll call this ring underscore Lottie OOPA. Okay, so if I scrub out a little bit here, I could rotate this by hand, but what I want to do is have an expression that however many layers are in this composition here, it will rotate to make a ring out of those layers. So to make an expression, you say Alt-click, and here's our first kind of JavaScript-y type stuff for this project. What we're going to say is create a variable called layer count, and that's going to equal this comp dot number of layers. So if we zoom in over here, we have 1, 2, 3, but we want this to be a rotation of 360 degrees. So to do that, we take our layer count and we divide 360 by the number of layers. So if there's one layer, it's like that. And then we'll multiply that by a special number called index. And I'm going to put this in parentheses just to make sure it does this, then that. So index refers to what number layer this is. So pretty neat. So how many of these would we like? How about 6? Now the cool thing about this setup is if I make a change to any one of these, it's going to be reflected in the whole ring. If I want to look at both things at once, I go Command Alt Shift N, and then I can lock this one and go to my pre-comp. So here I can see, fit. This is my original, that is the result. So for example, if I went in here, I'm going to hit UU, which shows anything I've altered. I can change the scale of my ellipse and then they'll all update. I might want to just slow this down a little bit. So I'm going to take this whole animation and then Alt. And that will, now it happens over 100 frames. I'm also going to a new null. So this is going to be the parent of that. Give this a child of that. Set this rotation from 0 to 1. And so now, hopefully, it will spin around and then come back. Cool. And if I wanted to stay out for a second, I can duplicate this keyframe. So I'm going to grab this one, and then copy it and paste it over here. So now it will zoom out, stay for a bit, and then come back. All right, and then we can see what's happening. Pretty neat. Now, what if we wanted these all to be different colors? If we weren't worried about Lottie, there's a number of ways we could do this, but there's a lot of things that are not compatible. So I think the way that I tried that works is just changing the fill, which is an effect. And so maybe we'll make one a little darker, or maybe a little lighter. And then this one, another fill. Let's try triad here. Let's see how this is going. Cool. Well, the next thing we're going to do is render this out. So to do that, I'm going to go Window, Extensions, Body Moving. We're going to select this comp. If there's these little dots, you click over there, and that will determine where the render is going to go. So we'll render Done. And then preview current renders, edit. And if I hit play, that looks promising. Okay. So now that we have our render, we have to add a link to a JavaScript player so that we can play our render, and we have to import our file into our HTML. The script is right here. So the code that you need for the script is in our Notion. I will place that over here. And then the tag to embed the actual video is Lottie player. And I'm going to just copy and paste this. So class is just so I can style it later. The source is, should show up, ring JSON. Transparent background, speed of 1, loop, with controls, and with autoplay. So let's see how that turned out. Let's start my live server. And there it is. And the placement of this is very similar to how you would deal with any other image. So if I said, let's just put this over here so I have a little more room. Dot ring width 300 pixels. There it is. We can also say, we can turn off autoplay and it won't play. We can turn off the controls. We could send the autoplay to hover. Okay.